Jamal Trulove. Happy to have you, my man.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed. So, for the people that's not familiar with you, introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, so my name is Jamal Trulove. A lot of people know me as 10 Milli Millie. I'm from San Francisco, California, Frisco, Bay Area, Sunnydale Projects, up the hill. Um, yeah, and a lot of people know me for being framed for murder by the San Francisco Police Department and the District Attorney Office led by Kamala Harris.
So, before we get into how you was framed for murder by Kamala Harris in her office, if you don't mind, can you walk me through the entire incident that took place that led to that?
Okay, cool. Yeah, so in 2007, um, me and the homies, we was all in the hood, Sunnydale Project, San Francisco. We was all shooting dice. So y'all know how it is in the hood, motherfuckers shooting dice, things get, real active. We drinking liquor, so forth and so on. So one of my homies, Sel Kuka, at the time, he was a little fucked up. He was drunk on some shit. He lost his money. He mad because his girl, went to amusement park without him, so forth and so on. And you know how there's always like a little pot of money in general. He ended up taking the pot of money and went off to the store to buy some liquor. Nobody wanted to give him no money to buy no liquor. So we thought nothing of it. It was only like $40 just in general. We kept on shooting dice. Probably about 15 minutes later, we see him coming up the street, coming up Blythedale, and my little brother is coming down Blythedale. So my little brother got a new whip. He just came into some money and so forth. He only 18 years old at the time, and Sale came up, sliding, profiling. That's what we call it, profiling up the street, and he ended up hitting my little brother's mirror, sideswiped my little brother's mirror. So I heard the noise. I seen what had happened. We continued, shooting dice like it was nothing. I started seeing like people go around the building up towards the parking lot where they both ended up going to the parking lot to see what was going on. So this being my little brother and Sel being like, my big homie at the time or whatnot, even though we're not that far in age, just in general, but he was like the big homie because he had some size on him, you feel me? So I went around the corner and I seen, Sel with his shirt off, kind of like probing my little brother a little bit. My little brother got his face contorted. He mad because he knows it's not on him and so forth. And so I started making my way towards the parking lot. And so my older brother, he ended up intervening before I even got there, to try to like stop it and to be like, if you're gonna try to fight my little brother, you're gonna fight me. And for me, I didn't want no fights happening at all because like we a unit all together. Like, so, I came in since I knew Sel far longer than everybody else did, coming up in the streets. I felt like, I could have this talk with him. But he is definitely, he definitely lit, he drunk, and he really ready to fight. He ready to, cause some damage. And I'm probably like 130 pounds at the time, 140 pounds at the time, and my little brother littler than that. So I intervened just in general. Now we have a whole crowd around us. Everybody's coming out of the windows, doors, and I knew what this was leading up to ultimately be. But so one of our other homies, to try to deter the situation, ended up, and when I say one of our other homies, we all homies, right? To a degree. Let off 2 shots in the air and to spread everybody out, to have everybody kind of scatter. And what that did, that fueled Sale more than anything. And he was like, oh, niggas got guns. We all got guns. So he started, heading towards the other building down the block on Blythedale, and went to ask one of our other homies to give him the strap. Now I followed him because I wanted to make sure that he didn't get no gun. because I know nobody was gonna kill him or do anything like that because because we just know he was drunk. This is his MO, just in general. Ain't nobody trying to do something to him. But we know if he get this gun, then he's probably gonna do something to somebody, just in general. And ain't nobody gonna let him just get the gun without, having they strap out on some shit. And that's what, So our homie didn't want to give him the gun. I advised him not to give him a gun. Now at the time, I'm like big homie on the block for real. I made a certified name for myself in the streets. And I don't know, what niggas fear me in that, in a sense where I was known as like this, this killer, drug dealer type nigga on some shit. I was very low key, and I was strategic on how I came up in the streets in general. So what I did, I remember one of my older homies, Rich, how he used to be able to calm Sale down. He'll kind of get in his face and grab him or whatnot. And so I took that approach, and I grabbed him and I talked to him, and I'm like, giving him that real love, like hug, bear hug, trying to calm him down. Like, bro, like you taking it too far, blase. And from there, he's steaming, but then he breaks out of it kind of like in a violent way to a degree, but not in like he broke out of it to do something to somebody or whatnot. He just broke out of it in a violent way. But for me, it made me think that he wasn't listening. He wanted to keep it going. So, I'm like, man, I bounced off and went across the street. I'm really like, I'm about to get up out of here, and I'm gonna get mines up out of here just to, to alleviate the whole issue. But also, I'm feeling that like, whatever you want to do, we can do it when it comes down to it. That was what was in my mind, but I didn't want it to be nothing, like that because I didn't want our block to ultimately split and separate. So I went across the street. I had a car in the parking lot, and I had a little chick in the car. So I went across the street, and when I went across the street and I started talking to the girl, my little brother kind of followed me to go to Sale's house where his girl is like, our big sis. And my little brother is only 16 at the time, and he's kind of just going to kind of either plead his case or to just, calm down as well. And Sale started following him, like skipping towards him. Now, one of our other mans, who knows Sale as well, intervened to try to like calm him down and tell him chill because it looked like he was going to do something to my little brother. And in that instance of him trying to do that and calm Sale down, Sale went off and fired on him and tried to knock him out. So what he didn't know, or he probably didn't give a f about at the time, that our mans had a strap on him. So he did what almost any nigga would do if you got a gun on you and you just get assaulted by somebody. He got up because he didn't knock him out and instantly pulled the strap. And before I could tell him stop, in the motion, he already dropped him with 2 shots and then stood over him and fed him 9 in his head. So after that, obviously this is a murder scene. There's no way this guy is alive. And, everybody scattered, everybody left, me as well. I hopped in the whip, dipped up out of there, got my little brother, dipped up out of there. Everybody left besides the people who probably just stayed around the pillar and wanted to, that lived there and ultimately, came out and mourned over his dead body. So we left, bounced off, went and grouped, obviously, to talk about what was, what just happened. And now, put that aside. So what had kept on going on the scene was that the police came and the police was asking people, who did it. They wanted people to, to tell on the person who did it. Now, the person who did it, like, this is my man's, we was been really in the streets. Like, this nigga really a serial killer, like, for real, right? And everybody knows it. Everybody knows he got 9, 10 bodies, you know what I mean? This is his MO. So everybody spooked to say that it was him. So the closest thing to say that it was him, there was like, oh, it was somebody Jamal was with. Now, mind you, this is a cross-racial homicide, right? I'm black. My man's who, my man's at the time that ended up killing my man's is black, and he's Samoan. And most of the people on the block are Samoan. I mean, I ain't gonna say most of the people, but it's like a 50-50, right? We grew up with a lot of Samoans that, was like niggas, right? So, so my name kept on being, said on the block at that time. And then you had this girl named Priscilla Lululemanga, who said to the police that she seen the murder and this is her cousin and so forth and so on, and that she wanted to cooperate. So they snuck her out the back of the house and took her to the police station. When they took her to the police station, they walked her inside of the police station. Now, mind you, how I know this is because what ultimately came out in my civil trial later. So she came into the police station with the two detectives. Before they even got to the precinct, Ingleside Station, they already had this clipboard with my face on it, right? And who testified to this is this kid by the name of Oliver Barcenas, who was like 16 years old, 17 years old at the time. And I'll show you how Oliver comes back in later. But he testified to remembering this last name Truelove being said while he was at the police station. And they were pointing at this clipboard of a mugshot and repeating to this girl, was it this guy? Something that starts with a J, Truelove. And the girl kept on saying, no, it wasn't him. So, no, it wasn't him. Now, what they ended up doing with frustration was take her to the back where there's a lot of different mug shots on the wall. The mug shots on the wall had various of people's faces, including mine. The same mug shot that was on the clipboard. And they said, point at the person if you recognize them on this board, whoever you recognize. And she went ahead and pointed at my little brother's picture and was like, yes, he was the guy being chased. So what she perceived in her mind that my little brother was being chased by Cell. She also pointed, and now my picture, my mugshot is right above my little brother's. She doesn't point at it at all. She went on to point at my older brother's picture as well and said that he was there on the scene and his picture was like 2 pictures away from mine. So she wrote a statement and said, what she said and what she's seen. And it was pretty accurate what she's seen, to be honest, right? But the thing was, it wasn't me, right? And so from there, they never brought up any charges because she didn't say that I did it. So after about 2 days of all of this stuff going on, right? What's happening on my end is me trying to bridge this gap between who's responsible on who did it and why people feel like I should have did something about it because that was my man's, and why me and my crew should have did something about it. Now, my man's who ended up killing Sale, he's not from our block, right? But, he's from our hood. And our hood, Sunnydale Projects, is really separated by probably about five different cliques, either by streets or proximity of the projects, being up the hill, Trey-Foe, you got down the hill, 42nd, the borderline, 1800, Murder Brook. Anything new from there is just some new shit that's going on in my hood in general. But everybody kept on saying that it was my friend who did it, and they kept on saying him. And I think what they ended up coming up with is blame Jamal, right? And what he will ultimately do is tell on the nigga who did it. So that's what they ended up coming up with. Now, what's happening in aspect of the police, the very next day, police goes to her house with a photo again, right? Trying to get her to, say that I did it. And she ended up, not saying that I did it. It wasn't until I feel like she was convinced by the people, her people, my people at the time, to say that I did it. Now, so the very next day, she called the police and told them to come down, like she has a good idea who did it, because they were calling her and stuff like that. And they said that if we give you a 6-pack lineup, do you think that you could point the person out? And she said yes. So they went to her job with a 6-pack lineup that was faulty to deal with, because the 6-pack lineup had not 4 people that she had already identified as in people that she knew. And a 6-pack lineup isn't supposed to go like that, right? So it was me, my little brother, one of my young niggas who ultimately I'll tell you that story as well, and 2 other people. And then, so in the 6-pack lineup, I am the only one that has my mugshot with the date on it of the date that the murder happened, right? This is something I called into question in my initial trial without knowing all of these other things I'm explaining to you now. And then, and I'm the only one that has this orange-red jumpsuit on. So it was very telling how they constructed the 6-pack lineup, who they wanted her to point at. And that's what she did. She said, that looks like the person who could have shot Sale. Is that Jamal? And they confirmed, they said, yes, that's Jamal. And she said, well, I'm almost 100% sure that he was the one who did it. But almost 100% sure ain't gonna cut it. Especially when this is a murder case and you're relying exactly on what one person said, right? But the law is that one person can prove a fact and one person could ultimately send somebody to prison for the rest of their life based off of what they believe that they seen. So what the police did, they did nothing about it. They didn't believe it was credible enough because of what they had her saying and what her statement was. So now, mind you, at that time, I'm still trying to figure out everything that's going on between like the streets and how my peoples is feeling, how the other side of my peoples is feeling. And, you got one side ready to go to war, the other side ready to go to war as well. I understand why they feel some type of way. I understand why they feel some type of way. And I'm kind of like stuck in the middle. But to be honest, Sale was really one of my good friends. And, I was leaning their way more at that time because something had to happen, right? But unbeknown to me, that's something that has to happen to me. And they were plotting it. So we had a mutual friend from another side, another hood in San Francisco, that really stayed out of this other conflict that was happening in San Francisco between me and, my mans who killed my mans, right? Who was staying out of it. But since they wanted something to do with me, and since done to me, and since he was already an enemy of where my other guy is from at the time, he played off of, our relationship and acted like, he just wanted to, he wanted to just be out of it. And the reason why he was in it is because I had one of his things, right? I had a chop of his, and he had a mini faux nick of mine, right? And he wanted it back because in his mind, he thought we were going to use it for this war that was brewing up. So I thought he was, more so just in the middle and not want to be a part of it. I respected it. I got a history with him in general, right? So I'm in Oakland and I'm setting up to meet him, at the time to, transfer, to give him his thing for him to give me my thing. And so I go outside. Now, good thing my little homie is, at the time, wanted to go with me to the store right after I make this exchange. So when I go outside, I see him posturing kind of like Maney, where, he got his hands kind of like right here, and he like, oh yeah, I'm parked over here, and he has a van, right? So I'm already kind of like eerie a little bit, but I don't want to be like, oh, hold on, what type of shit you on? Because I don't know if he on any type of shit or not. So now I got this chop broken down in my bag, right? In a baseball bag. So we make our way over, and when I see him go around to the other side of the van to basically get in, I go to act like I'm about to hop in the back of the van. So I go to open a door, and I lean to see if he hopped in the car yet. And he didn't hop in the car. But right at that moment that I noticed he didn't hop in the car, I feel the door push open, and my little nigga is going inside of the van when I open up the door, and they come out, blah, 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 and instantly shoot in the face. He turned around, start running me. I instantly just book it straight. I don't got a building to turn. I don't got a car to hide behind. I don't got a fence to hop. I literally got to run directly straight in hopes that I hit this corner in time. Because in my mind, I came up, like in war times. Like me and my hood warred in San Francisco from 2002 to like 2007, like crazy. So in my mind, I'm already thinking like, damn, I'm about to get shot, right? So I'm running fast as I can. My head is down. And all I'm thinking is just don't shoot me in my head so I can have an open casket for my mama. All I'm hearing is these gunshots because his is already gone. They focus directly is on me. And I'm hearing I'm seeing everything just literally go past me. And I run a full block, an Oakland block, and made that right, made that left, hit the corner, took the, I know the police is coming, took the thing off, threw it in the bushes. Now I'm right there by Lake Merritt. Now I'm furious, that this nigga basically just set me up in general. So, but now I know what their intentions are, right? Because there's no way that he does this without them approving for this to ultimately happen, right? So now, good thing my little homie he ended up, living. He got shot a couple times. Obviously, he got shot in the face, up his teeth, went out his ear and stuff, and and he lived. So in between all of that, I had just made it on I Love New York. I had just came off of I Love New York, the reality show. to try to ultimately put my name out there and my music out there because I was focused on music. I was always, born to be an entertainer and to get into like music and film, acting, and all these other things. I just never had the opportunity to do so. So after that happened, I felt some type of way. I damn near was ready to go to war and really, and put the pressure on them. But I had too much love for them to do so. And for me and my strategies, it's going to be easy. Like, to be honest, and I don't want to hurt people I've been loving my whole life and so forth and so on. And I wasn't for him getting killed at the end of the day. So, I'm not on TV yet, right? But I'm about to be. So I said, you know what? Instead of me staying here, because now I can't really, once this airs, I can't go do the interviews at the radio station and go do the club pop-ups and stuff like that because motherfuckers gonna phone pimp me, right? And I know that in motherfuckers' minds, they want to knock it down. So it's either I am fully, out here in war, with my own people, which I know I'm a win if I went that way with it, but I didn't want to go that way with it. So I ended up leaving and moving to New York City. Went to New York City. Obviously, I ain't got no job or anything like that. All my money I came up with, came out of the streets in one way or another to take care of my family, just in general. And that's a whole nother story. But so I went to New York. I ended up locking in with one of my guys over there that I met just on a humbug from Bronxdale Projects. And he put me on to, how much they was paying for like pills, like ecstasy pills and shit like that. I'm like, ooh, okay, hold on. And I already knew I knew what we was paying for them. We was paying a dollar a pill. They was paying like $7 a pill at the low. So I found my hustle, but I also was like, I'm going to use my celebrity once I go on this show to be able to catapult my career into film or into music and so forth. A year passes. So I'm in New York for a year. I'm back and forth. And what's killing me is a lot of people are saying, like Nick ran me off the block. Like I left. Or whatnot, right? And it's killing me to hear things like that, as in if I'm scared or so forth and so on. And I literally felt like my whole history of who I was dwindling away. And I was having, homesickness. I wanted to get back to the block. I wanted to get back, to my people. I seen my homie Sale funeral on YouTube and I cried. And I'm like, damn, y'all hate me, but I don't feel that way towards y'all on some shit. But it got to the point, after a year, that Halloween was coming up and I was ready to show up. So after a year, I came back. I was in Seaside, Monterey. Now, in between that time, well, I'll get to that. So I'm at Seaside, Monterey. It's like a couple days before Halloween. And, I go down to the beach and I got a big blunt. I smoke and I pray to God. I'm like, God, whatever ends up, happening on this next day on Halloween, when I do my pop-up, let it be your will. And I smoked and I prayed and I talked to God. And God talks back to me in, ways of my actions and ways of my thoughts. So I went to the house. Next day, I get into it with my son's grandmother because, she wanted us to pay her money and so forth and so on. And she was mad. So she ended up calling the police. Police came and they asked me for my ID, gave them my ID. They ran my name, and next thing you know, they pull out the strap and they said, get down. I'm like, yo, what the f going on? and they put me in the back of the car, and they say that they got a warrant for you out of San Francisco for a murder. Now, I thought that it was just, I thought that was just, a formality that they were trying to get me in to ultimately interview me, right? I had no idea at the time that this girl even existed that was saying that I did it. And I definitely didn't know at the time that there was another girl saying that I did it, which ended up being the reason why they got the arrest warrant. So a week before I got arrested, like 2 weeks before I got arrested, the police, the detectives had arrested this girl named Letitia. They pulled her over. She's a schizophrenic. She's a crackhead. She got a 9mm on her lap, 7-year-old in the back, and her husband is a parolee who I think had a warrant or some other shit like that. They pull her over and they take her in and they tell her, hey, we'll let you go if you could tell us anything about this murder, this homicide that happened, since you live right here on this block. So she went ahead and told them everything that she didn't see, but that she heard in the streets, and mushed up all these type of things, with them helping her, coercing her to say certain things, which later on we found out that them coercing her, those audio tapes disappeared. So what they did was take all of her words, in theory, and write this affidavit and had her sign it, saying that she will go to court and testify to what they had in the affidavit. Now, the affidavit is her saying basically that I did it, and it was a little bit of everywhere, but that gave them enough, and it sounded credible, right? And the detectives has said, we believe this witness is highly credible, and we will count her as a truth-telling witness. So now they accompany that with the initial witness, Priscilla, and now they have two people saying that Jamal Trulove killed Sel Kuka. So that led to me being arrested. Now, again, I go to 850. I'm locked up. I'm thinking they're gonna let me go in 72 hours. They don't let me go in 72 hours. I go to my preliminary hearing, and at my preliminary hearing, I'm like, there's no way that this girl is ultimately these people are gonna say that I did it. I'm confident that they're not gonna do this, right? So I go to my preliminary hearing, and Letitia attorney ended up coming in and telling my attorney that she's not going to testify, that, and she's sorry that she lied, and so forth and so on. And we wanted to know more, but the attorney wouldn't tell us more. So now the city attorney's office is back to just this one girl saying that I did it. Now, mind you, what I found out later, and what I know they got now at this point, is just this girl who vaguely says that I did it. She's almost 100% sure. They put this girl in witness protection, which there was no threat to her life or whatever, but that's what the DA office used as a strategy to really inflame the jury. As in, if this girl is truly in fear of her life, and how truthful do you have to be about what you've seen to uproot your life to go live in this crummy hotel, which was later debunked by Justice Klein during my appeal. And he said it was made up of whole cloth because there wasn't no truth to it at all. So what I know they ended up having was, and unbeknownst to me, which was a total Brady violation that I couldn't prove at the time because it came out in my civil trial. So there's this detective and a gang task force agent and officer named Kevin Noble. He knows me, he knows my family, and everybody in the hood, I mean, everybody knew I didn't do it. And everybody knew, for one, I was keeping it a bean and I wasn't ratting on the nigga who did it, right? And so forth. But Kevin Noble hated that I was in jail for it, right? Because he never knew me as like the rah-rah guy, right? His perception of me is Jamal never ran when we hit the block. Everybody else did, right? And this was another thing I feel why the police had it, had something against me. Because I got money out here, I got clout out here, and I could go to any project, which Kevin Noble testified to, in San Francisco, and know the nigga that's there, that really f with me, which he testified to, seeing me in, like, for instance, Hunters Point, who we had a long history of warring with, another project's area of San Francisco. He testified to, yeah, I seen Jamal, over in Hunters Point, over on Harbor Road, and I pulled up like, yo, what are you doing here? They're gonna kill you. And he testified, Jamal told me that, hey, I got a player's pass. I'm good anywhere. And I wrote that down, and that's what I told everybody else. Like, damn, Jamal does have a player's pass because I used to see him everywhere. Now, so Kevin Noble, back to the story, came to the DA's office with information from another witness who said that I didn't do it, and it was this person. And they presented to him the person who did it, right? And since they already had this girl saying that I did it, they shoved it under the rug and act like it wasn't there, act like they never got this information. Now, the only way I get this information is because of Kevin Noble testified to it in my civil trial. Also, when I look at the original homicide file, right, and a lot of people say, how is Kamala Harris, for instance, attached to your case when she was just the district attorney? She didn't argue it, right? Well, the district attorney doesn't argue cases. But when murder cases come in, right, they look at them, the homicide file, they see where what the case lies, what lies in the case, and they delegate it to their ADA. They delegate it to the prosecutors around, right? The ones that's actually arguing. But to say that she didn't know about my case is to say that she didn't pay attention to no murder cases, which mine was a high profile murder case out of San Francisco, right? Now, if me, a layman, can see inside of the original homicide file, which I ended up getting in my civil trial, but in the homicide file that they gave me originally, that was in black and white, there's these 2 pages that stood out, and it was the autopsy, right? I think her name was something Moffitt. It was her name, and then as in if there was notes there, but there was no notes, right? And then the other page was a page where it spoke about the ballistics, right? The shell casings and where they were, right? And you seen that it was like these 4 what they call doodles there, right? And I identified it as them trying to figure out why is the shell casings over here when 95% of guns shoot from the right side of the barrel, and the shell casings would have been in the street and not all the way over here. So if her testimony is said to be true, then the shell casings would be over here. So when you look at the original homicide file, you see that the detectives were writing in pen, pencil, and marker. So In my civil trial, right now, mind you, this is all the stuff that they have, right? I don't find this stuff out until my civil trial, right? When you go directly to that paper, you can look at the paper without even putting it in the light and see that the trajectory of the bullet wounds, the information was erased. It was written in pencil and it was erased because the trajectory of the bullet wounds hurted their case, right? And because there's no way that she says that the shooting happened in this at this angle, but the bullet wounds are coming from a different angle. So they erased it. Now, on that other page where they said they were doodling, when you take that page and put it up to the light, you see that they had nine little dots representing the shell casings in a row. They couldn't understand why these shell casings were in a row on the opposite side of where the witness says that the shooting ultimately happened. Now, we don't know these things when I'm going to my original trial, right? But we went, at her when it comes down to, her identity, and so forth and so on of what she says she's seen, which ultimately got better over time. She ended up saying, I'm 100% sure that this is the person over time. And this is after she was paid. I ain't gonna say paid as in here, take this cash, but she was put into hotels, housing, gave food. They gave her sister $10,000 to move her. Like they did all of these things to certify her as being in witness protection, right? And if you're poor in the projects, and they're ploying towards your emotions and you're trying to do the right thing as well, you start eating that shit up. And that's exactly what she did. She ate it up. So in my preliminary hearing, back to my preliminary hearing, they put her on the stand. She said that I did it. It bounded me over to trial. Went to trial and fought it. It was a good fight. We put up a good defense. Christopher Shea, he was my attorney. RIP to him. He just recently had a heart attack and died, which is crazy. But yeah, we ended up losing. And after I lost, got convicted, whether the sentence came in, obviously the courtroom is full. I know who this lady Kamala Harris is, right? People in the projects knew who she was because she was a black district attorney. And we thought that we had a black district attorney in office, right? And who we perceived to be black, right? That's from Oakland. And that's all we kind of knew. And we would think that, that she would, be a little bit more favorable to us. Now, during my trial, I didn't even think of this lady, just in general. I just knew that she was the head DA. They never came and tried to talk to me or anything of the sort, right? It was strictly, you did this, we charging you, you're going down. So at my preliminary, on verdict day, I remember seeing her in the back when I walked in. And when they laid down announced that I was, convicted for first degree murder, which I already knew I was convicted because the jury asked a question to the bailiff, because they give like these questions to be clear to the judge or whatever it may be, and we get to know what the question is. They bring us down to what the question is. And the question was, what's the difference between first degree murder and second degree murder? So I already knew that they just decided if it's going to be first degree or second degree. So I already came in there with the energy of like, I'm convicted. Now, they already knew too. So that's why the courtroom was super packed. And you see Kamala Harris like literally like front row, opposite side on the defensive side. And when they came with the verdict, guilty, me, I wanted to make sure I seen every nigga that was in that motherfucker on that side, not supporting me, and everybody else that was on that side. Because I knew, for one, I didn't do it. I stood on principle, and and I was gonna fight to ultimately get back. And I'll never forget when I turned around and I looked and I seen Kamala Harris. We locked eyes this one time, and she laughed. She literally just like kind of bust out laughing, almost as in if she was pointing at a nigga like ha 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 ha. That's how I felt. Though she didn't point, but that's how I felt when she was laughing at the verdict coming down. So, I took it in. It's like, all right, pause. And it was like, all right, whatever. So now the next thing that I need to figure out is how can I get a retrial before I get sentenced, right? I don't know. I'm learning all of this stuff. I'm learning the law. What is it that, it is? Nobody, out of everybody that was there, everybody knew I didn't do it, but niggas in their mind, they thought of it as even if you came and testified to say that I didn't do it and not say that somebody else did it, that's still telling. When it's not. But also, I get them to a degree, they were kind of scared of the opposing side, because if they came and defended me, then they may end up getting, like knocked down or something like that. Like they have to worry about niggas in the streets and so forth and so on, saying that they supported me or whatnot. Even one of my main mentors who, I worked with, for a long time, nonprofit, United Players, he was on their side, right? But he didn't know the full story, but he had that fear in him, because he came for me, but he seen them and he thought they was for me, but found out that they wasn't, and it put him in a sticky situation where he didn't even want to say nothing because he didn't want to get involved in the situation. So the next thing that happened that was huge and significant, before I get my sentencing, this is in 2010. At this point, I went to this church service and I came back from this church service. Remember I told you about the kid, Oliver Barcenas, right? I come back to my 12-man pod on the 7th floor, and this Hispanic kid comes up to me. He was like, "Hey, your last name Truelove?" I'm like, "Yeah." He like, "Did you go to jail like in, 2007 or something?" I'm like, "Nah, but that's when my case happened." He said, "Oh yeah, I remember being at Ingleside police station, and this Samoan girl came in with these 2 detectives, and I remember them saying something Truelove, and that never left my mind. And when I seen your name in the newspaper, it was like it triggered that memory." I'm like, "Hold on, what?" He broke down the whole scenario that I explained earlier right there in front of me. I'm like, "Oh, this is new evidence. This evidence that I couldn't discover on my own," right? Because I knew nothing of him being there. Even when we subpoenaed the police station to have all the names of everybody that was at the police station at that time, I don't care if it was a motherfucking janitor, give us the name. They never put Oliver Barcena's name on the list. So we have a clear-cut new evidence that leads to that can lead to my innocence if he was put up against this one girl saying that I did it. And then he goes up there and saying that this girl at the police station was saying that he did not do it. And plus, like I said, the faulty 6-pack lineup, you merge all those things together, I'm out. Not guilty for sure. Now they got an issue. They got a huge issue, because at that time, so I hit my attorney. I told him about Oliver Barcenas. My attorney searched it up, looked it up. He was there at the exact same time that the murder happened, the exact same time she was at the police station. There's no way around that. And I don't know this kid, so there's no way for me to just come up out of nowhere and start coercing this person. And if I knew him, I would have been put him up on the stand. So there's no way that they can ultimately say that we had an opportunity to use him and didn't, and they can't say that, I coerced him to say this. There's no way, because there's living proof that he was at the police station at that time. Oh man, I'm talking my big one. I'm back. I'm feeling good, right? So at the time, what was going on in San Francisco, we had a big crime lab scandal, the drug scandal, under Kamala Harris, where this lady that was working in the office in the drug lab was a dope fiend, and she was stealing the drugs, right? The DA office was hiding this. They were hiding it, right? Because they didn't want a scandal to come out. It wasn't until her family, who was telling them time and time again, ended up going to the news, told the news, and it came out in an article about her, I think it was her niece or her mom or whatever it may be, told them that she was telling the office of Kamala Harris and the DAs that her family member is taking the drugs from the drug lab. It ended up blowing up. So what it ended up doing was pushing, I think it was about forcing them to drop like 1,700 cases, right? People that was in prison who got convicted based off of it, and people that was up for a trial right now, because there's no way that they could go to trial on this because of this error on none of those drug charges. Now, the other thing that was going on at the exact same time was Kamala Harris was she was campaigning to be Attorney General, right? So there was another case, one of my partners from Filmo, Ijamu Obuagu, his case. Now, in his case, he got convicted for murder. In his preliminary hearing, again, one witness. The witness says that he was not the shooter. He was the person, he was with the shooter who did it, right? The shooter, they said that they don't even have enough evidence to say that he actually did it. But they arrested who they said the shooter was, and who this person said that the shooter was, but the them identifying that person was sketchy. But they said that he was 100%, he or she was 100% sure that Ijama was there. So they charged him for the murder. Now, and that was preliminary hearing. Fast forward to his trial, he went to trial, and then the witness changed her testimony and said, no, he was the shooter. He was the person who actually did it. And the judge let that play on. The DA went all the way in on it. And lo and behold, Drama's convicted for murder. Now, so in his motion to review to get a new trial, his attorney stated, look, there's no way that this lady could say, this person, guy, whatever, this witness can say that he wasn't the shooter that got him bounded over to trial, but he was with the shooter, and then at trial say that he was the shooter. There's no way you can let this slide. So the judge had to grant him a new trial. Now I'm looking, now I got this new evidence. Oliver Borsanes, they had him down as being a known Norteño gang member or whatnot, but he's never been to the pen. This is his first time on the way to the pen. You know, he got the okay, you know, from his people to get on the stand and testify to what he remembered that day, right? And we did this in a motion to review for a new trial based off of new evidence before I get convicted, before I get sentenced. And the district attorney office, they came up with this cockbull fucking story saying that, oh yeah, he's doing this as a favor for the blacks and the northerners in prison and so forth and so on. Just a ton of bullshit. Like, how the fuck is this happening? And he's never even been to prison. I've never been to prison either. So, but the thing about it, and this is where politics play. If they would have granted me a new trial based off this evidence that was strong fucking evidence, if they would have granted me a new trial, headlines would have been San Francisco District Attorney Kamala Harris convicting the wrong people in a time that she was moving to be Attorney General. You got the crime lab. You got 2 murder cases that has convictions that instantly get new trials to them based off new evidence and faulty testimony in general. And so in the judge, I believe the judge, favored this girl getting up on the stand, which she did because she had an opinion after I was convicted. So what they ended up doing was not granting his testimony as credible evidence. And they ultimately denied my new trial. I went to my second, and then when I came back for my sentencing, that's when I see Kamala Harris again, back in there again, smiling, ha, ha, ha. I mean, you see her now, she smiles and laughs for every fucking thing, you know what I mean? And in my case, she did the same thing. And I got sentenced 50 to life. And, when I after I got sentenced, I made it my mission to ultimately, to get back and hold everybody accountable, from the police to Linda Allen to Kamala Harris, accountable for the negligence or the deliberateness of what she did to me and to numerous motherfuckers that surround me. Because it wasn't just me. It was Ijama, it was Demarie Hernandez, it was Charles Hurd, it was so many people, and those are all people I know that are definitively innocent that got convicted under the watch of Kamala Harris, regardless of their circumstances, regardless of their history being in the hood and so forth and so on. And, oh yeah, this person was a bad person, or da 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 da, that's what he deserved. No, the facts are the facts. The case is the case. When they undercut these, evidence and come up with evidence and not rely directly on the strong evidence to convict somebody, it's just wrong. But yeah, so I got sentenced 50 to life in prison. Yeah.
And you said that Kamala, she showed up to 2 of the most critical moments in your trial, right?
Yeah, she showed up at my my conviction date and at my sentencing date. Now, a lot of people try to say that she wasn't, involved in the case, but at the end of my paperwork, it's the stamp of Kamala Harris's office. And for people to say that she had nothing to do with the case or had no knowledge of the case is just not wanting to hold her accountable, or to say that, she's innocent in the situation. Now I know, and people know as well, when San Francisco is only 7x7, we don't got tons and tons of homicides happening in San Francisco. And then with this being a highly publicized murder case in San Francisco, of course she had knowledge of it in between the time of her coming to the 2 dates that I said. Now, in the times that I could believe that she was involved for sure is when the case got brought to the office, right? You're looking at the homicide file, and she has to delegate this case to a district attorney. Not district attorney, but a prosecutor, somebody that's going to argue the case, which Eric Flemings was the first attorney who argued it in my preliminary hearing. And then she ultimately delegated it to Kamala Harris. Now, the strategy on that, I would say, if I was in her shoes, was for one, you have a female district attorney, you have a female that's a witness, and you have a female judge. Then you have this black man, right? And then he has a white attorney that's, a good looking attorney, pause. And how that will play to the jury as theater, right? So she had to have seen the case, the original homicide file. Now, if I can literally, as a layman, find in this homicide file the two crucial things that led to my innocence, they did too, right? To say that she wasn't aware of the new evidence that Kevin Nobles brought to their office, what a witness stating that this other person did it, is, to say that, she just either wasn't aware or she really didn't give a that it was literally, we got our guy and tucked it under the rug where they didn't even keep a log of it. The only way that we were able to find out was in my civil trial. Now, if we would have known that before, then yeah, it would have been a Brady violation. But we didn't know. So her involvement in the case behind the scenes, one can only infer what that was. But the only time that I ultimately seen her was on those two pivotal days. And the statement that she made after that they put in the paper about her honoring, the witness and how much courage the witness had to have to change her life, just to hold this murderer accountable. But yeah, so with that, right, to pick back up on the story just a little bit more, after I got sentenced 50 to life in prison, I went on, obviously, with a mission to ultimately get back. I met this guy by the name of Taja Dean, and this kind of plays to the macro of my story. When I got to San Quentin, I met this guy by the name of Taja Dean, and he had just finished doing 18 years. Not finished doing 18 years. He just got back, and he's going back to San Francisco to ultimately get his case thrown out, to which Kamala Harris tried to hold his case back due to a motion being filed not on time, or some old shit like that, and tried to delay him being released, which the judge ended up pushing his case forward and ultimately just releasing him. Now, I just wanted to state that because that comes into play later on as well. So I went on my journey to ultimately get back in the trial. Now, mind you, while I'm going through my appellate process, right, she wins attorney general right after I lose my criminal case. So now, in the process of me going through my appeal, we are going up against the attorney general office. So now she has this murder case that's on her record, and now we have to argue the appeal through her office. So for one to say that she was not aware of a murder case that was in pursuit of being overturned under her watch, for her not to be aware of that, it's just people being in denial. Because I know if it was me, if it was you, if it was anybody, and you were in that field of work as an attorney general, which they lean on their convictions, right? She didn't want the case to be overturned. So I went through a 3.5 month process, through my appeal process, of them combating back and forth of trying to ignore the fact of prosecutorial misconduct that they say led to ineffective assistance of counsel, which it was. But it led from prosecutorial misconduct. And what's crazy about that is when Linda Allen was spewing all of this shit from her mouth, talking about how the witness telling the jury to put themselves in her shoes and how accurate do you have to be to uproot your life and go live in a crummy hotel and X, Y, and Z. You're not supposed to do that. You can't tell the jury to put theirself and play towards their emotion to tell them to put themselves in the witness's shoes. And there's no evidence of her living in a crummy hotel. So now I'm fighting that, right? Now, in between this time, Oliver Barcenas went off and he did his 12 months, 14 months in prison, and then he was released. Now, this is happening between my appellate process. I know nothing about it at the time. And within 3 months of him being home, he gets shot by the SFPD. He had a gun on him, right? Now, I still don't know that all of this is going on. I don't find this out till later. The city is in uproar because it's a police-involved shooting who shot a young Latino kid. They have no video of it, and they're saying that he had a gun on him, right? Oliver Barcenas lives. But they recover this gun, which in theory, I believe, right, that it was a drop gun, right? And in the projects, what these police would do, they'll chip a gun, give it to a dope fiend or an informant of some sort, most likely a dope fiend, and have that dope fiend go and try to sell this gun to a specific person for an offer you can't refuse in the hood. And that's what I believe happened. And then in that instance, when they know that this person has this gun, there's only two things they could do. They can either not run, go to jail with it, but 9 out of 10 times, 99 out of 100 times, that person is going to run. And if they run, they going to start shooting because they going to find that gun and then it's going to be justified because they're going to say he had a gun on him. The thing about it didn't work. Oliver lived. They didn't kill him. So he went on to have to do some more time with bullet holes in his ass, and it ultimately ended up catching testicular cancer in prison and so forth and so on. Fast forward, I win. I win my appeal, and I get back into trial. I win at my second trial. We don't use Oliver Barcenas because he couldn't prove a fact, and it was part of our strategy. Now, mind you, remember again, Tajadeen. When I got to San Quentin, I talked to Tajadeen. He told me, he was the first person I ever talked to. He told me, he said, Jamal, if you're innocent, make sure you don't fall into the prison politics and you stay on top of it, because it took me 18 years to ultimately, be on top of my case. And now I'm heading back, but make sure that you focus in. So that always stayed right here. After 6 months, I got sent to Calipatria, and Calipatria, the intake dorm was a dorm that ended up being full, and I was the last person that they needed to house. So they put me inside of a actually living dorm, a building. And it just so happens they put me inside the cell with Lukman, who Tajadeen just left out of that cell. So for me, I'm like, what's the coincidence, right? So I'm reading these signs, right? And that made me focus in even more. And it also, made me start drinking coffee because Lukman, a Muslim brother, Tajadeen is Muslim. I'm not gonna give his name because I'll give it later. But he was like, yeah, man, your homeboy just left up out of here. This was his coffee mug. And if you want it, you could take it. And I'm like, that coffee mug got some good luck on it. I'm about to start drinking coffee for it. I need that luck. So fast forward, I get back into county jail, my new trial. I didn't get into no fights in county jail. And county jail, motherfuckers respected me. And, I'm 6'3", and, I ain't no sucker out here, like, in general, and I ain't getting into, like, no dumbass shit, I was self-made, didn't rely on nobody to do anything for me. But this one dude ended up saying some slick shit out of his mouth, and I ended up whooping his ass in the holding cell as I started making my way towards, on my way to one of my court dates. I whooped his ass, so they sent me to the hole. And when I went to the hole, I put my mattress and stuff on top of the metal, the metal bed frame. I went inside the pocket, the little cubby, pulled out everything that was in there, and then there was an examiner. And when I opened up the examiner, Tajadeen was right there on the front of the paper, sued the San Francisco Police Department and won $3.5 million. So that, for me, that was another sign. Like, oh, okay, I know the trajectory that I'm on. So it didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter what the evidence was. And there was no way of spooking me into taking a deal that they tried to offer me, voluntary manslaughter, and I'll go home in, 9 months, 10 months, which almost anybody would have took, right? Because Ijama Obuagu, again, back to him, when they granted him a new trial, still under Kamala Harris, they scared the living shit out of him. He was 20 years old at the time. And they said, hey, look, you can either go to trial and we're going to convict you again, or you could take involuntary manslaughter and you could go home in a couple months. And he took the deal, though he was innocent. But that's the strategy of the office, right? Put a deal in front of them that they can't refuse. They're already scared to go to trial. Even if you're innocent or you didn't do it, you're still scared to go to trial. But especially if you're innocent, you're scared to go to trial. Especially after you just got convicted and you seeing everybody around you getting convicted. Again, I won my second trial, right? I never used Oliver Barcenas. And it was like, you know what? It's not meant for me to use him for my criminal trial. It was meant for me to use him for my civil trial. So I come home. Oliver Barcenas comes home just shortly after. He does 3 years straight, gets off parole. I'm just prepping for my civil trial. Now, in my civil trial, I know I'm about to use Oliver Barcenas. I know I'm about to question the original homicide file. And there was another thing that my attorneys was Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld, and Nick Bruston, who argued my case. Neufeld, Scheck, and Bruston, they're the ones who founded the Innocent Project. And Barry Scheck was O.J. Simpson's attorney. And there wouldn't be a Johnny Cochran without Barry Scheck, because Barry Scheck explained the glove. So Johnny Cochran wouldn't have that historic, closing argument if Barry Scheck isn't that guy that explains it. But anyway, so my attorneys were telling me, they was like, hey, look, you're going to have to tell them who actually did it, right? And they broke down the difference between criminal and civil, beyond a reasonable doubt, a preponderance of evidence. And I'm like, yo, there's no way. I'm like, that's still going to be looked at as snitching, telling. Like, that's not me. I can't do that, right? And then they told me, they said, well, in civil, since this person isn't being, charged criminally, then they're not allowed to use this person's name, right? Because that's the defamation of character. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, all right. And then, so now I'm in my bag of creating theater my damn self, right? Now, they didn't advise me, these things. They didn't know about the original homicide file and what I was questioning. That was my idea, to ask the judge, can we see the original homicide file? Also what Oliver Barcenas. So what I did, and this is how flawed the system is. And this is how, where strategy comes into play. So what I did, I'm like, the only way I will feel comfortable by doing this is if I go to the actual shooter and tell him I'm gonna do it. Because I don't want it to come out in any type of way as in if I'm trying to tell him this. But I know that, everybody knows I didn't tell on him in the first 2 trials. Why would I do it now? So that's what I told him. I told him, look, if I was gonna snitch on you, I would have snitched on you the first 2 times, right? And then you didn't do shit for me or for my family or anything like that while I was down. You didn't take care of my kids. If anything, you was spooked thinking I was gonna tell on you. So just respect my strategy and how I'm gonna attack this. But what I need you to do, I'm gonna tell them exactly what happened, and I'm gonna tell them that you did it. But what they're not able to do is use your name. And all you gotta do is make sure you plead the 5th. Just come in and plead the 5th. So the only way I was able to do that was in the deposition of Linda Allen, and this plays heavily to why Kamala Harris will never come out and apologize or never come out and say that, she could have made a mistake, is because in the deposition of Linda Allen, I had my attorneys ask Linda Allen, as we sit here today, do you believe Jamal Trulove killed Sal Kuka? And she says, yes, we believe Jamal got away with murder. So that means that's what the office believes. That's what the police believe. That's what all of these motherfuckers believe, that I got away with murder, regardless of the evidence. The evidence pointed towards my innocence, but they did not give a f. They were head on that I did it. So with that being said, I thought about it like, damn, I could tell these people exactly who did it, and they still gonna try to deny it. And one more over, they gonna try to call him in. So, like I said, I went to him and I told him what my strategy was, and all he had to do was come in and plead the 5th. So I told him in my deposition that he did it. And what they do, they called him in hopes that he came and gave some type of alibi of some sort. And the initial questions in the deposition, he answered. They were basic questions, but once they start getting to some critical questions, he like, hold on, man, what's going on here? Like, are y'all arresting me for something? Like, whoop, and they're like, no. Well, he's like, I plead the 5th. He like, if y'all not arresting me, I plead the 5th. I plead the 5th. And right there, that's when the city knew they were f***ed, because he looked it guilty. Exactly how I knew it was going to look. So after that, at that point, the city attorney offered me $2 million. And everybody told me to take it, right? Because, if you lose, you're not going to get nothing. But from all the other signs that happened in my life, it happened in all, over the past 8-10 years at that time, I'm like, nah, there's no way I'll lose this. Yo, $2 million, I'm gonna get more, right? And it wasn't even about that. It was about me holding motherfucker accountable. I wanted to prove that the police framed me. So in my civil trial, we asked the judge, can we see the original homicide file? Seen it. We went directly to those pages. You've seen the trajectory of the bullet wounds. Obviously, the jury is over here seeing this man in the suit who is obviously wrongfully convicted, saying that the police framed him. They pull out the original homicide file. You see the trajectory of the bullet wounds that was stated, written in pencil, in erase, and you can read it literally. You go to the ballistics page. You see that. You can see it literally. They were in tears. Also, we put on the stand Oliver Barcenas. And he got up there and he told them exactly what he told me the day that I met him in the cell that time. And then them, in panic, they called in the actual murderer to be a witness for them. And he comes in, right? Damn near looking like the person that did it. If I'm saying that this guy did it, and the jury is looking at it like, oh, if he's saying that this guy did it, and then as soon as they see him, he comes in, not to be profiling, two teardrops under his eyes. You know what I mean? With a crazy mug on his face, right? Looking like the nigga that could have did it. And then they look at me, they're like, oh, my attorney grills the shit out of him, and all he doing is, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth. And they excuse him. And he walks right out of the courtroom. The city attorneys, they didn't know how bad that was ultimately going to look, which it looked horrible. The jury were in tears. I knew I won before I even won. So I was ultimately awarded $10 million, right? That by the jury. I became the first person in California history to prove that the police framed a man. Now, mind you, the ultimate goal, what I wanted to do was, if I could prove that they framed me in civil trial, that should be enough evidence to hold them accountable in criminal. Because it should be criminal to frame a man, right? For murder. That's what we all think, right? But now I will be relying on the same city and county who believed I got away with murder to ultimately charge these detectives for framing me. But then there's also, what's in there is them not being able to charge them because of the timeline. Because of the timeline of damn, it's leaving my mind. Them being able to charge, right? It's like a fucking 3-year window, 4-year window to charge somebody of a crime, or you throw it away. So they're like, we can't even charge them anyway. And this is what my attorney just telling me. So I'm like, damn, that's fucked up. So I went on to win the $10 million. We ended up settling. So people always try to be like, oh, but you settled. You settled. No, I didn't. What we settled on was the $3.1 million that the city attorney has to pay the attorney fees for, which my attorneys filed the attorney fees being $4 million that they would have had to, give up. But they're like, man, we're not giving you $4 million. We'll give you 3.1. And that's what my attorneys ultimately settled on. And all combination, between the 10 million and 3.1, it ultimately came out to 3.1 million, which we went 60-40, right? So after winning the civil case, within 3 months again, I was sentenced and shot by the SFPD. This man has been shot 16 times in his life, only by the San Francisco Police Department. Within 3 months of either him being released the first time or 3 months of him testifying in my civil trial. Now, everybody said that this was a conspiracy for me, that the police framed me, right, in general, because you can't believe it, right? Now, obviously, I was able to prove that they did in front of a jury, right? Which I felt this even more, that we should be putting this in front of, a jury for sure and suing the police. But so they shot him. Now this time they have video cam, right? Which when you look at the video cam, this happened the day the Warriors won the championship, and I think it was the 2018 championship. Won the championship. Everybody's partying. It's in San Francisco. When you look at the video cam, again, drop gun, right? They got him with it the first time. They knew they'd get him with it the second time, right? So you see the camera, police are in the car, quietly, not saying a word. The car is silent. Not, oh, look at this crew over here. They got a beer. Let's stop them. Nothing. They literally just pulled up, hopped out, and started harassing these 6 Latino guys off of 1 beer, which everybody and their mama got drank on them. Like, the motherfuckers celebrating. And you see Oliver nervous, posturing a little bit. And once they want to start jacking him up, he ends up breaking. He runs. So instantly the officer drops his mic or baton or whatever it may be, grabs his gun and start running while the gun in his hand. And from the body cam, you just see him go like this. Blah, 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 and shoot him 8 times. And then says, he had a gun on him, right? Now, the city was in rage because of this, right? Now, the other videos came out from the opposite side, and it showed him reaching for something in his in his crotch area, right? Which happened to be a gun, right? Reaching for something in his crotch area to throw it, right? But before he can even throw it, he's already shot in the back, right? Now, there's no way that this officer knows from that it's a gun that he's grabbing to throw. It could be drugs. It could be anything else. So the officer doesn't see at all what he has right there. So one could say that the officer knew that it was a gun that he was ultimately trying to throw. And once they kill him, they can find the gun and they're going to be like, oh, he had a gun on him, so we killed him, you know what I mean? Because we're in threat for our life. But Oliver still doesn't die. And they got the officer, and this is where it gets funky. They got the officer talking to another officer on camera still. And he says, yeah, man, it looked like it was a tech. Oh, really? No, it wasn't a tech. What he got confused is the first time they shot him, they found a tech. This one, it was just like a regular gun. It was like a 9 or some shit like that. That's where they fucked up at. He's remembering. And then that same officer that shot him just killed a boy in South San Francisco 17 months prior, and SFPD hired him. Now, one can say they hired a shooter. The first officer that shot Oliver, after he shot him, he got promoted to captain. So when you put all of these things together, right, obviously it speaks towards a lot of, corruption and, so forth and so on. Oliver Barcenas, like I said, he lived. He went on to, they sent him to prison for a long time. I heard he just recently got out, but while he was in jail, he sued the police as well. And he ended up settling for $800,000, which I was mad as because I wanted my attorneys to take his case and prove that the police was, targeting him for testifying against them, which the media has not put this together at all. Even when I reached out to the media to tell them, do y'all know the case of Oliver Barcenas? Do you know that he testified against the police in 2 different times in my criminal and in my civil, and then he got shot by the SFPD both times after? Like, yo, that story is there. It's easy to connect those dots. But anyway, so yeah.
Wow, man. Yeah, that's insane, man. I'm lost for words, man. I'm happy you got your money at the end though, man. But yeah, that's crazy, man. I'm still in shock by you telling me that, she was laughing while you was getting convicted. Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah. I mean, look, Kamala Harris didn't care she cared about convictions. That's why she set up, a lot of people try to be like, oh yeah, she did the Back on Track program, to combat recidivism and not send people to prison. And only 45 people did prison time out of the 1,900 on weed cases, and all of these things, right, to defend this horrible record. But what people don't understand is her whole thing on what she ran on against Hallahan was not being hard on crime, not being soft on crime, but being smart on crime, right? So she knew her strategy was to almost play this motherly figure, which that's where she got the term mamila from, this motherly figure to at-risk youth that's predominantly in African-American communities in San Francisco, whether it's Sunnydale, Potrero Hill, Fillmore, Lakeview, Alamany, Army, and the list goes on, right? Hunters Point, and convince these kids, right, 18 to 24, that if when the police do arrest you, or whatever it may be, you come in and we're going to convict you if you go to trial. Convince them that they're guilty for them to take a deal. And if they take this deal, this felony conviction, then she'll release them and get them back on track. So yeah, no wonder why a lot of motherfuckers didn't get sentenced to go and do time. But if you pick up some of those cases out of those 1900, right, you'll see how many people ultimately ended up going and doing time. When they got sentenced and they took the deal, no, they didn't get instantly sent off. But now, if they fell off on that program, then now you're going to jail. Now you're going to jail. Now you're going to jail. But there's no way, when you see her conviction rate being all the way up that high, that was her being smart on crime. Get the conviction. And back on track was nothing but a mask of a program to hide to hide the fact that she was getting all of these convictions, to bolster her smart on crime, which is, black people, we never looked at like a prosecutor, which is being black and being a prosecutor is crazy, right? In general. But we never, like black people, we don't look at Kamala Harris as like this savior or like for us, because all she's known for is locking motherfuckers up. And, when every time I see her laugh and see her smile or say some dumb shit, I'm like, damn, why is she in this position? And then that makes you dig up her history, right? And once you start digging, you'll see that she kind of fucked her way to the top. Like, let's be honest, right? Not to say that she's dumb. I don't think she's a dumb lady, right? I think she's smart enough to get to where she's at, right? But how she did it, it's, some could speculate, right? Now, we could break it down from when she was working at the, Alameda District Attorney Office, right? Let's say in 93, right? 93. Come on. So, when celebrities go public, right? So she started with Willie Brown publicly in 1994, right? Now, we know if you're going public in 94, you was probably fucking with each other in 93, just not public, right? That's typically, when breakups happen and shit like that. And everybody knows that Willie Brown, he was married at the time, though everybody knew, and I believe his wife even knew that, he was a player. He had all the bitches. Like, that's what Willie Brown was known for, but also known for being a politician, which he was the biggest politician in California at the time. Right? He was like the speaker of the assembly or some shit like that in general, but he had the most pull. Now, so one can say that he started messing with her in 93. Now, in 94, he launches his campaign to be mayor of San Francisco, right? And now he has, he goes public with Kamala Harris, right? Him on his arm, and at this time, he's introducing her to all of their friends, so forth. In the political world, the relationships are building, and now it's looking like this powerful black couple, you know what I mean, that's going to be, at the, inside, mayor of San Francisco, right? This attorney, and then this mayor, very democratic, right? So that's in 94. Everybody knows that Willie Brown bought her a BMW in that year, 94. And then here comes 95. Mayor Willie, 94, 95. 95 is when the BMW is bought. Then '96, Mayor Willie Brown wins the election. He actually won in, at the end of '95. He becomes the mayor of San Francisco in '96. And immediately after he becomes mayor, he stops messing with Kamala Harris. And he said he stopped messing with her because she didn't see herself permanently fucking with him for forever. And he told her she was right. I'm going, right? So at that same time, Willie Brown wins. Hallahan, what's Hallahan's first name? Forget Hallahan's first name. Hallahan ends up winning district attorney of San Francisco, right? Kamala Harris, after Willie Brown broke up with her, while they was dating, he put her in two big positions in California, put her on a commission and put her on a board as well, to where with those positions combined, she's making $80K, $100K a year, right? But she's still working as a DA in Alameda at the time. Now she got 3 jobs, right? All because of she's fucking with Willie Brown, right? So they break up. She continues on with the job. That takes on all the way from 90. What was that? 96. I think that takes you all the way to 98. Now 98. Willie Brown went for re-election. Now Hallahan and Willie Brown was falling out a little bit. I got to state that because it comes back in, right? And now they both end up winning re-election, I believe, in 98. They both won re-election. But at that time, Kamala Harris came to her 10-year, and now I feel, and if you just look at the articles and you do your research, you'll see what Willie Brown's strategy was. And you'll see that Kamala Harris and Willie Brown, though that they wasn't fucking no more, publicly, they were still connected to the hip. So Kamala Harris comes over and starts working at the San Francisco District Attorney Office, which is under the reign of Terrence Hallahan. Yeah, Terrence Hallahan at the time, right? So Mayor Willie Brown and Hallahan, they not seeing eye to eye. So you go ahead and you tap Kamala Harris, you put her in there. Now he's in office. She's in office to be the eyes and ears, because his plan is to get him out of office in the next 4 years, and ultimately to anoint a Kamala Harris. So she plays her role. She plays her part as not attorney general, but as a regular prosecutor in San Francisco for the 2 years or whatnot. And Hallahan ended up noticing, and this takes you up to about 2020, right? Now, again, what's the next relationship that you know that Kamala Harris went public with? She went public with Montel Williams in 2001, right? And again, before you go public, you fucking with a motherfucker probably like the year before, before you ultimately go public, right? So, and that's why I tell people, unofficially, we know when they went public, but before is unofficially. Now, Montel Williams at the time is married. She's in Hollywood. She has these connections and so forth, right? And now at that time, Montel Williams was suing the production company, I forget, who owned the rights to the Montel Williams show. Guess who was his attorney? Doug Hemhoff, her now husband. So one could say, right now, what the story that she tells and what people say right now, that, she didn't meet Doug until 2013 on a blind date. So you telling me you a top attorney in San Francisco and you dating Montel Williams, who's in a legal battle, and you being a lawyer, and his lawyer is Doug Hemhoff, and you ain't met this man? Okay, whatever, right? That is, let's say, the first time they could have met in general. Then here come 2001. Kamala Harris and Montel Williams goes public, right? Montel Williams and Doug Himoff, they lose the rights that they were fighting for the Montel Williams show or whatnot. So now one could say in 2001, now that they're public, and Doug Himoff and Montel Williams got this relationship like this, she had to have met this man. So Doug Himoff, while he plays a big part in all of this, because Doug Himoff, and why it made so much more sense for Kamala to start fucking with a Doug Himoff, right? Because Doug Himoff is a partner in this law firm, right? That represents congressmen, governors, senators across the whole United States. So he has the relationships up and down the political spectrum. And now they're kind of like, they make a little bit more sense together than, him and Montel Jordan. Now, Montel Jordan, this is 2001. He's divorced, right? He's divorced. You know why? He divorced because he thinking everything gonna be good with him and Kamala. You know what I mean? Nope, it didn't work out. You know why it didn't work out? And this is my opinion from doing the research and me just knowing how shit goes sometimes, right? I don't think she thought, her best play was to with a Doug Himoff because of the relationships. But at the time, Doug Himoff is in a whole ass marriage. So one could say, right now, nothing is out there that I ain't gonna say she necessarily fucked him and they was fucking with each other all the way up and on the back end, all the way up until 2013. That would just be preposterous, right? But when you think about it, it's like, hold on, Doug just came out. He trying to get ahead of it right now, right? He came out just recently saying that he cheated on his wife in 2019 with the nanny and ended up having a baby by the nanny. And that's why him and his wife ended up breaking up. Now, if Doug Himoff could admit to cheating in 2019 and he didn't meet Kamala until 2013, are we saying that Doug Himoff couldn't have been fucking Kamala Harris way before that time, but he was in a married situation, and Kamala Harris, her political ties in San Francisco was way too big, and she was a part of a bigger scheme that was going on in San Francisco, which was she needed to announce her running for district attorney of San Francisco. So when you look at it like that, right? So let me take you back. This is 2020, 2021, 2020. Mayor Willie Brown announces his running for mayor again. Well, he's a shoo-in. Ain't nobody going against him. But Hallahan has competition now. Kamala Harris going up against, now Hallahan, he like, oh, I know what this dirty son of a bitch done did to me. Now, mind you, Hallahan was investigating the police department because of these officer-involved beating of these two men. Three off-duty officers beat up two guys, and one of them had their son with him and all types of shit, whatever it may. He was investigating that, right? Now, what Mayor Willie Brown ended up doing, right, because he wanted to make sure that he was politically posturing, what he was doing. So he ended up taking one of his long-having friends who was in the police department for 27 years and promoted him to chief of police in San Francisco. Now let's look at this. Mayor Willie Brown becomes the first ever African-American mayor. He appoints the first ever black police chief. And now here comes Kamala Harris, right? And the strategy is to make her, to get back at Hallahan, but also make her the first ever black woman, black person, period, district attorney of San Francisco. And now the whole San Francisco being ran by the most powerful people in San Francisco is being ran by black people, right? Now, Hallahan, he got hip to this shit. He said, you know what? I got you. He ended up putting an indictment. He indicted the chief of police, his homeboy, what's that homeboy, and 8 others for conspiracy to cover up Fajita Gate, because that's what the case was called, Fajita Gate, because they supposedly, these off-duty officers got into it with these other guys, with some guys over some fajitas. And that's how everything ended up happening. So now Terrence Hallahan, he did that, because that was his last thing, that he can do. Because now, after he does that, within 2 months of that, he ends up having to drop that case on the chief. The chief goes off into leave because now his name is tarnished and so forth and so on. He takes leave. He's already old as a motherfucker anyway, or whatnot. And now you got Kamala Harris that's campaigning against Hallahan because she knows the whole office. So she's hitting him left and right, bang, bang, bang. And then his mishandling of Fajita Gate. And then you got Willie Brown that's hitting them over the head in these political circles, raising money with the Dianne Feinsteins who ended up backing Kamala Harris. You got all the biggest political names in San Francisco and California backing Kamala Harris. And that's not because of her relationship, that's because of Willie Brown. And then she goes on to win Attorney General, not Attorney General, but District Attorney of San Francisco. And now it's like, okay, how, at that moment, obviously she has to stay in San Francisco. Now, she can't necessarily come out with a Doug him off or anything like that. And they'll never want to connect those dots, right? And it probably just didn't make sense. But to say that they didn't know each other until a blind date in 2013, I'm calling cap. I'm calling cap. Now, when she ran for district attorney, she said she was going to be smart on crime, right? Now, Hallahan was a progressive. He was the most progressive at that time, right? And she acted like she was going to be more progressive than he was, right? And that's why you see like a lot of the right wing always say that, she's ultra progressive and so on and so on, blah, 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 because that's how she promoted herself. But really, when you get into the weeds of it, she wasn't. She was really a diehard prosecutor that acted almost as a conservative. Because if you look at her record numbers, Kamala Harris locked up and convicted the most black people in San Francisco history under her 6 year in San Francisco than any other DA in San Francisco history. So how are you for us, and how was she that progressive when her records states the same? When she comes up with these strategies, smart on crime, remember, to deploy prosecutors to high schools and middle schools to try to hold parents accountable for their kids being truant. Oh, I want to make sure these kids get their education. Oh, really? So now you're going to start sending police officers up to these high schools and to these middle schools. And who did that ultimately affect? Who was ultimately missing 20 days or more from jail? Underserved communities, black communities, Hispanic communities. My hood. I grew up poor. I probably missed 20 days every year of my life. And I know tons of motherfuckers else who did as well. So now you locking up parents and you profiling the kids as potential gang members, and you're activating the police. And now this was around a time of stop and frisk, which We was being stopped and frisked like a motherfucker in San Francisco. Now, you could go on and say, you know, San Francisco is progressive in that way of thinking, especially when it come down to locking motherfuckers up, right? As much as they come off as in, you know, this lenient city, which, you know, if you dated back 4 years ago, you know, who our current mayor right now, London Breed, who the presidential candidate she got behind was Mayor Bloomberg, who started stop and frisk in New York City. He was looked at as the Democratic Donald Trump. And he literally went to every city that had a black mayor, and they all endorsed him. But one can say that when Kamala Harris was in her reign of office as San Francisco district attorney, there was no way somebody could say that she wasn't hard on crime. There's no way that somebody could say just from her literacy and her education and her pizzazz got her to where she at right now. And once people start digging into the weeds of it, which I know Trump and they office, they gonna put the dots together. But one dot that they didn't put together, they didn't put together that Doug Himoff attorney for Montel Williams at the exact same time that Kamala Harris is fucking Montel Williams. Either the year before, the year, or the year after. But once they get a hold of that and they start connecting those dots, it's going to be a bigger story to tell.
How you feel about the people that say that Kamala is not black?
So, look, I'm going to break it down like this, right? Kamala Harris, right, on the surface, she's black, right? There's no way around that, right? She's black, right? On the surface, she's black. But, and they say she's black because she's from Oakland, right? But did most of her, you know, childhood in Canada, right? She grew up as an Indian American, right? If we know as black people, we know, like, when you see somebody that's like that's Middle Eastern, yeah, they got the same color as us. Black folks, born in America, right? Descendants of slaves, right? Us. We grew up as African Americans, right? That's what made us black, right? You're only black in America. We were African Americans. She admits not to be an African American. She is an Indian American for the whole time. Now, she has picked and chose when she wanted to be an African American, and those were times at, you know, when it's time for elections, and when she went to, you know, Howard for the black experience. Now, let's look at that. They say, yeah, she black because she went to HBCU. Yeah, she black because she went to Oakland. No, niggas, we don't look at it like that. We're not looking at, let's just say, Aladdin. If we looked at Aladdin, and Aladdin was from Oakland, and he went to an HBCU, and he always claimed to be Indian American, we never looked at Aladdin like he was black. Aladdin not black. But how the fuck out of nowhere, when it helps you, and you want to point towards the black community, urban culture, which creates 90% of culture and influences 90% of culture in America, black people, now you wanna pander to us, because that's what she's doing. I don't give a fuck who say she's not. She is. She's pandering to us, right? Like the running joke. Kamala Harris says she's from Oakland, but she don't know Too Short favorite word. You know, hey, look, Kamala Harris, she black, right? She black. But her go-to meal is baked chicken. Hold on. Kamala Harris, for one, she lied about smoking weed, right? Then later admitted to it, right? And then when she admitted to it, she still lied about it. She said she was in college smoking weed, listening to Tupac and Snoop Dogg, but they wasn't even out yet. And then when they asked her, oh man, this was the dumbest shit ever. I forget the lady name. She was interviewing her, and she asked her. She said, who's the best rapper alive, right? And she goes to her go-to, Tupac. Like, you knew what she said, best rapper alive. The only thing that could come to your head is Tupac. And then wiggle out of the question when she's like, okay, well, obviously everybody loves Tupac and we still believe, West Coasters believe he's still alive, whatever, but who's your best rapper alive? And she's, I don't want to say their name because, I don't want to say their name because they need to stay in their lane. What you mean they need to stay in their lane? What lane? She couldn't even name not one motherfucking rapper that she likes or listens to right now. I don't know what she came up with when she told the motherfucking story about cooking collard greens in the motherfucking tub. I ain't never not one time in my life seen, and look, I'm biracial, right? My mama white. My daddy, I don't even know that nigga. Like my step pops, he black, obviously. I just found my biological dad. But my mama grew up, making hot water cornbread. You know what I mean? She was with the niggas. You know what I mean? On some shit like, she gonna name all of these, she gonna name the past rappers right now. She gonna deliver. Like, you had the opportunity to give a little bit of your card and you flundered heavily. This is also the other thing, right? And I want people to really fucking understand this, right? Kamala Harris played a big part to black culture. The part that she contributed to black culture is locking niggas up. Motherfuckers being in jail is part of black culture, which is fucked up. And as we sit here today, you have, of course, a shit ton of Hollywood elites, which a lot of them are my friends. You know what I mean? At least they perceive to be my friends or whatnot. But, none of them ever, put a stamp behind all the fucking work I've been putting in the film industry and so forth and so on. And, I believe it's because I'm attached to this woman that's a powerful woman in politics. And her husband is a huge entertainment attorney. You know what I mean? No, so, people say, why? Oh, that's another thing that we could get to as well. But if you ask me, on the surface, Kamala Harris is black. Did she grow up really looking at herself as a black woman? No. She grew up looking at herself as a South Asian, Indian American woman. And she did everything in her power to be adjacent from black culture or looked at as a. She went to a HBCU for the black experience. Like, come on now. And still came up out of it not knowing shit about the culture. Nothing. But you got her pandering. You got everybody else pandering too, because they want to be part of history. 4 years ago, nobody knew who Kamala Harris was, and everybody was against her. Black people involved as well. And, and now all of a sudden, you see everybody. And look, I got put in that situation 4 years ago. Let me break that down. A lot of people asking me those questions. Oh, Jamal, you supported her 4 years ago, and you said you put your differences aside. Listen, let's be clear. When Kamala Harris started running for president 4 years ago, I was on her ass. I had a whole plan of how I was going to make sure that my story went viral 3 or 4 different times, right? I was a thorn in her side when Tulsi Gabbard was talking on that stage, on that debate stage. She did everything but say my name and my homeboy Taja Dean's name, right? And a few other people as well, right? We was the thorn in her side. And she ended up having to back out. Now, they're going to tell you it's not because of that. It's because of funding and other things like that. But if you look at the polls and you look at the numbers, she only got 1% of the fucking vote. And it wasn't the black vote at all, right? And then, so, and that was that, whatever. I did the Vice interview. And when I did the Vice interview, I did it kind of in hopes because I grew up, I guess you could say Democratic, liberal, if you was black, you was Democrat, right? Just in general, right? But I'm attached to this woman, so it's hard for me just to fall in line, which they wanted me to fall in line, right? But I couldn't, right? And they weren't neither. I mean, before she got put into vice president, everybody wanted to help me tell my story. I had executives attached, executive producers attached. I'm not going to say their names. I was in conversations with big, well-known black people that's inside of, this industry, Black Hollywood, that came up with every reason and excuse to why they couldn't attach to my project or had to back out once she became vice president. I had a production deal for my documentary. Everybody keep on saying, oh, yeah, you do your documentary. Why you want? Oh, I tried. I've had 3 different projects. I had Framing Truelove. I had a Truelove story. I had Chain Reaction. I gave them 3 or 4 different ways to tell my story, even using other people who'd have been wrongfully convicted, tell their stories as well. And they loved it until she got put in as vice president. And that's when, I started getting the calls. I started getting the calls from executives, from confidants, people that, I'm fairly new to, right? Advisors and stuff like that. Like, yo, you might have to put that aside for real because it could fuck up future investments. It could fuck up shit that you're in right now. And, you could get blackballed. Like, that's literally what motherfuckers were saying in a nutshell. Like, nigga, you gonna get blackballed, nigga, before you can even do anything. So me, I'm freshly in this industry, in the film industry. I'm freshly in investments, learning, financial literacy and how to invest in, private equity and all of these things. So I'm like, shit, man, I ain't gonna let this bitch fuck up my bag when it come down to it. So, mind you, I hated Joe Biden because of the 94 crime bill and the shit that he said on the floor of the Senate. I hated Kamala Harris because of what she did to the black community in San Francisco. And I went up against her office twice. So I had full reason why I didn't like this woman or I didn't like him, just in general. But when I got those calls, it kind of spooked me for real. And so instead of me going on somebody else's platform and so forth and so on, I did like a 3-minute, breakdown about how I'm gonna put my differences aside with Kamala Harris and I'm gonna vote for Joe Biden, though it took everything in my being to fucking do it, but I did it. And a lot of people, you'll see, after I did that, I stepped away from politics. Now, when I did get into politics, and let me backtrack just a little bit. The time that I did get into politics when I first started is during the district attorney race in San Francisco, to where I backed Chesa Boudin, who was the most progressive district attorney in American history. Most progressive. And I wanted him to get into office because we shared a lot of the same views of how the district attorney office was running. Specifically, Linda Allen, which we filed a motion before I even met him to get her disbarred because of Brady violations, right? And I told Chesa, I said, look, niggas ain't never voted for a DA, right? What are the things that you're gonna do, for the black community and to be progressive in how you're going to handle cases in San Francisco? And he told me, he said, look, we're gonna do away with do away with cash bail, which we know that was put into place to keep niggas in jail because we didn't have the money to bail out. We're going to do away with gang enhancements because gang enhancements ain't nothing but the police targeting motherfuckers, considering them as gang members, enhancing the convictions, scaring them to death in order for them to take a deal. And we're going to do away with charging youth as adults, which I remember, growing up as a kid, I knew hella young niggas that was getting into shit due to their circumstances, whether it was, petty theft all the way to, knocking somebody down on some shit. And they wanted to charge them as adults, but not understanding their circumstances. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I can push that. I could campaign that and get my people and get black people to ultimately come out and show up to the polls and vote. Black people didn't even know that you could actually vote for a DA. We was that much out of the loop of even caring. We just thought that the DA was basically like the police in general. So I campaigned for Chesa Boudin. And my main thing now, mind you, look, I'm not going to call it a revenge. Remember, I said I was going to hold the police accountable. I said I was going to hold Linda Allen accountable. And I said I was going to hold Kamala Harris accountable as well. So obviously I was able to hold the police accountable. And in this instance, right, still leaning on, it wasn't like me wanting revenge. It made sense in general. And since I was put into this political realm of, who I am in my case, and I only went viral because I won my civil case, and everybody wanted to know, to interview me and sit down, and every political party, and especially in San Francisco, all these politicians wanted me to come and speak over here, show me over here, and be like, look, we got Jamal Trulove and all that shit. Okay, well, I'm gonna play politics a little bit with y'all. And, we got Chesa Boudin into office, and, and on day one, he went in that motherfucker and he fired Linda Allen. So I checked her ass off the list. And, now bringing it back to, Kamala Harris and her being put in as vice president, again, contracts dissolved, people disattached. All of these things. When I came out and I said I was going to put my differences aside and vote for Kamala Harris, the very next day, Charlemagne comes out and he says, the most egregious case that I thought that was against Kamala Harris was the Jamal Trulove case. And even he came out and said he's voting for her. So I'm like, hold on, Nick. I didn't say I'm voting for her, for one. I said I'm voting for Joe Biden. I'm going to put my differences aside. That's what I'm going to do. Right? Now I'm in the mindset of trying to make sure that I didn't do no damage to the point where I get ousted or I'm so much of a problem in Hollywood or a problem to be associated with because of my story. So also, Kamala Harris' niece, and all the politicals, all the Democrat politicians that I knew in San Francisco that said, this lady, we're against her and everything of the sort. They jumped on her jockstrap like this. They was reposting my what's her name. They started campaigning for her and all of this. They calling me like, hey, Jamal, hey, look, I think I could get you on the campaign trail, man, and to make her look good. And I'm like, what? It was literally that quick of a flip. So now, again, when Angela Yee, I met probably like 2 years prior to 2 years prior to me going on to the Breakfast Club. She been knew my story. She been trying to get me on the Breakfast Club. But the producers, I went on a whole East Coast radio run when I was doing my music. And the Breakfast Club was supposed to be one of the stops, right? I did almost every other platform, right? Except the Breakfast Club. And it's like, okay. So when he came out and he had said the very next day, the most egregious case that he thought was against Kamala Harris was the Jamal Trulove case, that told me he been knew about my motherfucking case. But he was already aligned with Kamala Harris and her politics in general. So they didn't want Jamal Trulove on there saying anything negative about Kamala Harris. But once I came out and I said I was going to put my differences aside, it's like, okay, we can fuck with you now. Come on here. And that's when I knew that, a lot of our platforms, black platforms, right, are being controlled and ran by, left-wing, left-wing politicians. And now we're the left-wing media. And if there's and the left-wing media is black culture. And black culture is what influences all these other cultures. And if we could make sure that we're saying the right things and being on track with black culture, then that will have a trickle effect to all of these other new collective of people, whether it's the women's rights, whether it's the LGBTQ community, whether it's, the Asian community. Remember when all the Asian stuff that was going on and so forth and so on, they had it heavily in the media where Asian people was being attacked, and they try to make it seem like, for one, black people was doing it. And then for two, they came up with laws. They did all types of shit, man. And everybody ended up having a cause after we had a cause, right? And that's where the left wing chooses to aim their attention on helping people, not black people, because really they like, we gonna lean on the Civil Rights Act. We helped you, nigga. When really they didn't, because the Civil Rights Act, yeah, it was signed by Lyndon B. Johnson, but Lyndon B. Johnson signed it, then right after said, I'll have those niggas voting Democrat for the next 200 years. But what people also don't know is that only got passed the House and the Senate because of 90% of Republicans supported it. Only 30% of Democrats ultimately supported it. But since Kennedy just got killed and he was pushing a civil rights and end segregation movement, it was the biggest thing happening in America. And since Lyndon B. Johnson was in office as president, he had to do it. But we can't, and look, I just learned a lot of this shit over the past year and a half, right? Especially just in this past, in this past couple of months. But a lot of motherfuckers don't know the history of the Democratic Party, which was the party of the KKK, which was the party of segregation, was the party of Jim Crow, which was the party of slavery, which was the party who didn't want segregation to be ended. And they were the party that executed Reagan's war on drugs. There wasn't laws. He announced the war on drugs, but there wasn't laws implemented, right? That spoke towards mass incarceration. It was a Democrat, being Bill Clinton, which Joe Biden wrote the crime bill, ran on that bill, convinced America that they were going to make America safe again, right? Because of that bill. And Bill Clinton ended up winning. Now, what people throw the crime bill around, they say crime bill, but do you know what the crime bill actually is? The crime bill is 357 pages of government grants just to lock people up. That crime bill had counties, states basically turn into Fort Knox. Like, you got these small population of fucking 14,000 people. They got army tanks. They got army tanks in that motherfucker. That's because of the crime bill. Since the crime bill, I don't know, there's not one thing that was something major and significant in Black history that helped Black people. Not one thing that we could all refer to besides the Civil Rights Act that people tried to say that you could contribute that to the Democrats, but no, they were not behind it at all. You can't name one thing that the Democrats ultimately did for black people. So when I sit back, obviously, and I'm telling my story and I'm learning so much more about, the conservative ways and, the difference between both parties, I'm like, damn, it's blowing me back. And it's not only blowing me back, it's blowing a lot of black people back.
Yeah, that's real talk. You saying some real shit. But I gotta ask you about this convention that Kamala had in Atlanta. How you feel about Megan Thee Stallion performing there? And I think Quavo, he was there too.
When I see Megan Thee Stallion at this rally, for me, it was the ultimate propaganda. It was the ultimate concert to get people to show up. Obviously, black people in Georgia never looked at Kamala Harris as probably don't even know who she is in general, right? But always looked at her as a prosecutor. She's locking things up. So I look at when they did, Megan Thee Stallion and Quavo, it was the biggest pandering of our time that a political party has done to attack black media to ultimately get the black vote. I've talked to people down in Atlanta, and they've told me that they were literally paying people to go to this to go to this rally. They were literally picking homeless people up to go to this rally. People were literally leaving after Megan Thee Stallion performed. But it wasn't for that, right? They did that and they knew what was going to happen. It was for the aesthetics, what they could get right there on the screen, right? So you could have the shade room. You could have academics, which academics isn't, I believe he's very in the middle, right? But he is a Trump supporter, which is, I'm not mad at that. But all these black media outlets are going to snapshot those times, push it out there, turn her up, turn her into this celebrity, like she with the culture and stuff like that. Like, okay, get him, Queen Kamala. That's what they ultimately wanted. And that's why she's not sitting down doing nothing right now, because she's killing it on social media. Just based off of these one-liners that she done did at these fucking rallies and what she's about and so forth and so on. But, I'm not mad at Megan Thee Stallion. She got a bag for it. I know she did. I'm not mad at Quavo. I bet you he got a bag for it as well, right? They are the culture. We are the culture. This lady is not the culture at all. You got motherfuckers like, what's her name? Something Reed. Anyway, Joy Reid. You got motherfuckers like Joy Reid going on social media saying, if you black and you not voting for Kamala Harris and you on that other side of the line, you're going to be looked at as real weird. And it was almost threatening. Like, if you black and you not supporting them and you supporting the other side, we not fucking with you. 90% of black people ain't gonna fuck with you. Hollywood ain't gonna fuck with you. Black elites ain't gonna fuck with you. That's basically what she said. And she got her nerve. Bitch, you don't come from black culture. You was born in New York City and ultimately raised in Colorado. And then you went to a HBCU for the black experience the same way that Kamala Harris did. And you got your nerve to be sitting up on this motherfucking stage with this blonde toupee on, trying to mimic the look of a Donald Trump. You're not a part of the authentic thread of the struggle of where black culture ultimately came from. You're part of the struggle just because you're black. In a lot of instances, that's not enough. Again, Aladdin is not black. So it's pandering. And that's how I look at it. it was laughable, and to be honest, it was sad. And it was sad how much, how much the far left, the left Democratic Liberal Party has a stronghold on our community. And it's just sad, man. They had me too, to be honest.
Crazy, man. So they has you too, huh? Yeah, that's crazy, man. But I want to ask you this, right? You was awarded 13.1 million. Do you feel like that money was worth you doing 6 years in prison or no?
No, not at all. I mean, look, I can't get those years back. I'm a confident person. I've always felt like I was ordained to be somebody since I was 11 years old. My name is Jamal Trulove. Jamal means beautiful in Arabic, right? Rashid means leader, aspiring, guider, right? And my last name is Trulove. There's no coincidence to that. There's no coincidence to the things that I've had to experience coming up, as a black man in San Francisco and in the hood and the struggles, losing one of my brothers being killed to gun violence, two of my other brothers being shot, my parents being on crack cocaine, me having life in prison, and me being able to sit here and do this interview right here. Like, I've never took the easy road. I've always had to decide if I was going to shut up or I was going to speak up. And that money, I didn't look at the money as a way that I was looking forward to the money when I was suing. So that was a plus, obviously. But I've always looked at myself, as a rich nigga anyway, right? I've always had that confidence. And, I have besides this story that I'm, telling you, I have a whole nother story about my past life and other things that was going on in between while I was suing, right? That, I don't speak on too much, which I will eventually. But the money was never a thing that was ultimately going to make me, right? It was a tool. It has been a tool for me to be able to learn what having access in the room is, and to be able to build relationships with people outside of money, outside of people who don't got no money. But that time, people say this, and this I'll finish the question like this. People say that they will take $10 million if they had to go and do 6.5 years in prison. And to be honest, I probably will too. If you said, hey, look, got this $10 million for you. You go do 6.5 years in prison and you come home in 6.5 years, coming from where I come from, and mostly all black people is going to say, yeah, let's run it. Because we've always been prepared for jail, whether we did it or we didn't do it, right? But now, in this case, would you take $10 million to go have life in prison and not know you coming home? Nobody takes that deal. The mental anguish of every day. So my mindset when I went to prison was every year I didn't go home, I'll go home the next year. That was my confidence, and that was the way I coped with doing the time, right? But in theory, in law, if you look at the statistics and the numbers, I had a 99% chance that I was going to die in prison. I only had a 1% chance of getting back after having 50 years to life. I was 23 when I went to prison. If I did the whole 50 years, some laws would have had to change. I would have been 73 before I could even go up for parole. So, to answer your question, nah, that money wasn't enough. I don't think there's an amount that's enough. Now, I know I'm blessed. I know that. I know I'm supposed to be here. I know that. And, and for that, I'm grateful for, but, and, the money helped, obviously, but, If I could take it all back and get all those years back again, like a snap of a finger, I will. Though this is part of my life, this is part of my story. That is the unknown. So it'd be kind of tough to do that. But I'm confident in myself enough to know by 23 to 30, which I went to jail at 23 and came home 30, the trajectory that I was on, I would have been good.
Right. Last question, two-part question too. You made a comment saying that, Kamala, every time you see her laugh, it reminds you of when she was laughing at you when you was convicted. I want you to go into detail about that. And also, who do you want to see the people vote for, Kamala or Trump?
Yeah, so every time I see Kamala laugh, again, like I think about that time in the courtroom, right? Her high-fiving, and celebrating the win. Now, when I say celebrating the win, not that she argued it, but, her office. And it's right before, the attorney general election. So she's celebrating me losing, being, framed for murder. And that's all I can see it as. I don't care what everybody else, look at it and say and try to give reason why I should be the bigger person and, all of these things. And like, the future of the country is on the line. I ain't trying to hear that shit. Y'all sold us that in 2016. Y'all sold us that and under Trump, everything was cool. You ask the day-to-day nigga. You ask the day-to-day nigga. They gonna say, when Trump was in office, was cool. Groceries was low, right? We wasn't at no wars. We wasn't giving billions and billions of dollars to other countries. Seemed to be cool. That's how we felt. And as soon as Biden got into office, we didn't feel that way no more. So, but every time I see Kamala, and I want people to understand this, I am literally traumatized by this woman. I'm literally traumatized by this woman. So do I want to see her for the next 4, potentially 8 years, potentially 12 years because she's been in office before already? No. So it forced me to really think about things from the other side. And as I started diving deeper, I started understanding the conservative ways. So if you ask me right here, who I'm voting for, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, I'm voting for Donald Trump. And I advise every nigga out there to do the same thing. Because if you think something gonna change with Kamala Harris and she gonna be the black woman savior for our community, nope, it ain't happening. It's not happening. So let them pander to you all you want. Let them, hit you with all the fear-mongering, Project 25, and all of this shit, all you want. But it's only deployed towards your fear of missing out on some shit that they're saying that they're giving us. And they're not giving us shit. We don't need shit. Trump, 2024, let's roll.
Jamal Trulove, great interview, my guy. Great interview, very insightful. We got to run this back again, man. Before we end the interview, though, let the people know what you got going on.
Okay, yeah, for sure, man. If y'all stayed through this whole interview, appreciate you for hearing my story. You can follow me on Instagram, Jamal Trulove. I'm not on every social media platform. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a father. And, I love my people. I love all black people. I love all people in general, but especially my community. And I hope my hear this out and understand why I take the position that I take. And I'm open for debate and support my film when as they come out. And man, just keep on mobbing, man. Like my nigga Gunna Goes Global say, just keep mobbing, man. Yeah.